All right, well, we might get underway. We've got quite a number of people who have logged on already, and we're obviously mindful of the time again, and we're wanting to make sure we get the most out of this demo and this webinar for everyone today. So good afternoon or good morning, and thank you for everyone for joining us for the second of our 3 webinars we're running to give you a glimpse of the power of Figured and how it can be used to help your clients and ultimately help grow your practice. For those who weren't able to attend Tuesday's webinar, my name is Scott Lingard. I'm the Business Development Manager for Australia, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's session. Joining me again today is Tara Broben, our Customer Success Specialist based here in Australia, and Tara will be taking us through the demonstration in a couple of minutes' time. We also have Andy Drinkwater, one of our Partner Success Specialists, and also John Gibson, our General Manager for Australia and New Zealand. So as I mentioned earlier, today is the second webinar in a series of 3 that we've been running over this period of time. And today we are focusing on the planning tools available in Figured. And also, just to recap, that next Tuesday we'll have a look at the exciting new development of Figured, our Insights platform. So we want to make sure you've booked in for that last webinar in this series as well. And if you missed the first webinar, just let us know, and we're going to be sending out the links to those recordings in the coming days. So just let us know and we'll get those to you as well. And just to recap some of the things I touched on the other day, we've worked hard and are continuing to work hard at Figured to be the best-in-class product fit for agribusiness in Australia. We've been going about this quietly, but we are bringing on more and more farms all the time, and more accounting practices working with us. And we're seeing the growth through the work with the advisors and to our success as a Xero App Partner Award winner multiple times. That integration with Xero is significant for us and is at the crux of what we do. It means that there is access to the whole flow of financial information relating to your client's business through the direct feeds into Xero, our integration with Xero across their ledger, cash book and business editions. And this information flows into our suite of products, giving farmers and yourselves immediate access to their financial data for better decision making. So using Figured with Xero allows for integrated compliance, simplifying these processes, as you can see on this slide. And what we're going to focus on today, it provides unified advisory. So our planning tools and ability to track actuals against plans and full reporting are strong points of difference and add value to the advisory services offered by our practices. And our ability to provide out-of-the-box business intelligence gives access to on-demand analysis to provide benchmarks and look at the range of scenarios for clients in real is world first in agribusiness. So these 3 components that we're covering in this webinar series are at the core of Figured and really do see us as the best-in-class solution for agribusiness in Australia. So today we're going to focus on agri-planning tools, adding value through integrated planning. And what we will cover today is how to get started with a plan and work with it efficiently, how to use scenarios and snapshots to build the right plan for your clients, how to use Figured reports to drive stronger engagement with your clients. And what we hope you'll take away from this session and the potential challenges we believe we can solve for you will be around how you can easily get started with a Figured planning service for your clients, how to get the best out of Figured enabled planning service, and what makes Figured the best Xero integrated planning product available for agri. So what Tara is going to cover off shortly in the demo will be how we integrate with Xero and the account configuration process, how product trackers work with your plan, how to efficiently and effectively work in the planning grid, working with snapshots, working with scenarios for long-term planning, and what reports are available and how to get the best out of them with your client, and how we manage multi-farm and multi-entity enterprises. So I'm going to hand over to Tara shortly, who's going to lead us through this demonstration. Please feel free, again, we wanted this to be interactive. So as you go, if there's questions, you'll see the Q&A button down the bottom of your screen. Please feel free to type your question in there. We've got Andy and John on board who will answer best we can as we go through the demonstration. Plus, we'll spend a bit of time at the end answering any questions that you have as well. So feel free to jump on with some questions. And I'm going to hand over to Tara now, who's going to lead us through the demo.
Perfect. All right, so we can see my screen, Scott?
Yep, all good to go.
Perfect. All right. So, hey everyone, I'm Tara from the customer success team here at Figured. And as Scott's mentioned, I'm going to cover off some of our key features of our financial farm subscription. So what you're seeing here at the moment is the dashboard of a singular financial farm subscription. But before I start, I just want to let you know that we can cater to bigger operations as well. So if you have multiple farms, let's say 6, and those 6 farms had a singular Xero file, you can be utilizing the tracking categories within Xero. So that information comes through into Figured, and you can plan and report on an individual farm level, but then you have the option to report on a consolidated level as well. So that's what we call a multi-farm. And then alternatively, if your farms are all set up on separate Xero files for tax purposes, and there would be a need for you to have a single file for each of those Xero files, but then you are able to get a consolidated view of that operation entirely, and that's what we call multi-entity. So I'm just going to briefly touch on our integration with Xero. So Xero and Figured work hand in hand. When you first connect Xero to Figured, we'll pull through your chart of accounts, and those codes are what we're going to plan against. So you do have the ability to recategorize how those codes will be grouped and displayed within Figured by coming down to accounting and jumping into the chart of accounts. So let's quickly just run through the navigation. So what we're looking at now is the dashboard, and this is going to give us visual cues of what's happening on your farm. We've got the operations tab. So this is where we have our trackers, and the production information is going to exist with it, for your farm in here. So when we're building out a plan, you're going to be coming in and entering those forecast transactions for your production under your trackers here. We've got the allocator. And so that's where we can allocate your expenses from Xero to a particular farming operation. I'm not going to touch on that today. I did cover that one earlier in this session, so you can check out that recording. We're going to talk about scenarios shortly. This is where you can be building out a longer term view of your farm, so up to 10 years in the future. And this is great for that what if planning. We'll spend some time in the planning grid as well. And this is where you're going to build, out the rest of your forecasts. So once you've done your trackers information, we'll be jumping into the planning grid. And lastly, we've got the reports, and we'll touch on reports and the range of reporting options that we can track your farm's performance relative to those forecasts later. So we'll start up in the trackers, and we'll jump into my sheep tracker, but I'll just show you, we have got multiple trackers available. I can track my production of crops in 2 ways. So I've got a simple version, and then I've got a more detailed way, depending on what you would prefer. I can track livestock production and many other things, and I can be setting up a new tracker at any stage up here. So I'm going to jump into my sheep tracker, and I'm just going to show you how we can start to be building out that forecast. So we're looking at my sheep tracker here, and the first thing that I'm going to want to do is up here is this global date selector, is making sure that we're in the right year. So we're building out this plan for the 21 year. We want to be building out in actuals and forecast view, and we want our actuals date set to none, as I don't want to be pulling any actual transactions through. I just want to be looking at my forecast data. So we can see now my grid that I have got some information already sitting in here. If this was empty, and it's probably what it's going to look like when you first start, you do have the ability to go up to tools and be exporting out last year's transactions and then importing those as forecast transactions. So that's a really quick way to start to build your budget out. In terms of entering information into the plan here, the quickest way is through the monthly view, and you can be coming down and into these cells, and you can be coming down and you can be forecasting those transactions on a monthly basis. So we're looking at births, we can anticipate when those might be happening throughout the year, and we can be entering those figures in through there. Alternatively, we do have the detailed option, which obviously allows for some more details to be adding those forecasts in. So from here, we're going to be jumping into the planning grid. So we're looking at the planning grid now. So once we have those production trackers built out and we're happy there, we're going to be jumping into our planning grid. So you can see it looks like a big Excel spreadsheet. The first thing that I'm going to point out is this grayed out area at the top here, and this is our production trackers. So all of this is grayed out is because those informations need to be entered in under the trackers, and then they're going to get pulled through into here. So in terms of navigation around here, we can go up here and there's some functionality of hiding all of the empty rows, collapsing all, expanding all. Figured also allows for you to plan in either a cash view or a profit and accrual view. So that's really up to you how you'd like to do that. And then if we, to start out our budget here, we do have the option to be coming up to tools again and clicking on import. So we had that option to be coming in here with a click of a button and importing last year's actuals. We also have the ability to be loading in a snapshot. So a snapshot is a picture of your farm. It contains all the data of your farm when you took the photo, essentially. So each year, the first snapshot you'll take will be your budget, and a snapshot can be taken as a combination of actuals plus forecast information, and you can take a snapshot at any time. So what a snapshot is good for is, say I wanted to build my plan out for next year, and I don't think it's necessarily based on last year's actuals, but maybe from 3 years before. I can be coming into the planning grid, going back 3 years, finding the information in there, taking a snapshot, coming back in and importing that really quickly through here. And the last option is for those of you who love Excel and spreadsheets, you can be coming in here and downloading your template, filling out the information, and it's as easy as re-importing in there. So that's just some quick tools around starting off your budget. So say you've imported your data in there and now you're wanting to start to enter into the planning grid. You can be coming into here and entering directly into the cells straight from in here. I just remembered that I haven't covered off the overdraft settings. So I'll just quickly talk about that. So Figured does have the option to be coming in setting in overdraft settings. So Figured will automatically calculate the interest for you, and you can be doing that up through here. So back to entering into the grid, it's as simple as coming in and you can be entering in those figures directly into the planning grid, and it will automatically populate for you. We do have some other tools available down the bottom here. So copy, spread, and adjust by a percentage. So for an example, if I come down to my fertilizer section here, my actuals from last year says that I spent 150,000. And I'm thinking that it's going to be increasing this year to 170, I can be coming into here, clicking on spread, popping in my figure, my new forecast for this year. Then I have the ability to either spread that monthly, bi-monthly, or quarterly, or by the curve. And what the curve does, it will spread this figure proportionally into the months that it was expensed from the previous year. So I can come in here, select curve, come across to my actuals and be pulling that information in. And what that's going to do, it's going to distribute that figure according to last year. Sorry, my bad. Clicking into this cell. And that one's going to populate in there for you. So we can be coming in and entering transactions into here, but we do have the option to be entering in more detailed transactions as well. And we're going to do that one through the account schedule through here. So we're going to pop up into account schedule. And what this allows us to do is to be adding those forecast transactions with more detail. Jump in here. This view allows us to be adding in a specific transaction date, payment date, more notes or anything we'd like to add, specific quantities, amounts, and the ability to do it per unit or by total. So you can be doing that for those certain accounts. You might not want to be doing that for your entire plan, but you do have that option if there are specific transactions that you want to be recording more detail, and they're all going to be stored in here. So if we quickly pop back to the planning grid, and say, for example, we've built out my trackers, I've built out my plan, and it's looking pretty good. This is where I can come up to this button up here and be taking a snapshot. So that first snapshot you take is probably going to say annual plan. And as you reforecast throughout the year, you can be taking as many snapshots as you like to refer back to, and they're all going to sit down in your snapshots here. So this is just a real quick overview of the planning grid. And what we'll do now is we'll jump into scenarios. So these are all my scenarios that I've created for my farm. They're all stored here. So from within scenarios, you can be taking the existing data from Figured and extrapolating that out into 10 years into the future. It's a great place to test out those what if situations. And you can see what the impact of a large purchase is going to be. So for example, purchasing another farm. So if I jump into one of my scenarios, jumped into my status quo, well, the first thing that we're going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at the opening position. So this is where your assets and your liabilities are going to sit for the farm. We're going to come down, we've got propositions. So this is where you're going to build those things out. Like, what are you going to purchase? Are you going to be purchasing the neighbor's farm and you're going to have to take on that extra debt? What is that going to look like on an annual basis? So you're going to be entering all that information into here. Same goes for income. Once I've made that purchase of that new farm, I need to go and change my production relative to the farm that I've bought or whatever I'm doing. I'm going to be entering that information into here. Same goes for expenses. What are the extra expenses we need to be thinking of? We can be adding those in here. So once we've built out all of this information, what Scenarios does is that it runs through into reports. And it's going to generate these reports for you. It's going to generate an overall summary, a profit and loss, cash flow, balance sheet, and it's all going to be pulled into here. So for example, if I want to look at my cash flow, I can drill down into the figures in here and investigate further and look at what's going on. Is it a good idea? What do we need to be considering? The other great thing about Scenarios is that it has the ability to generate these visual indicators. So it gives you the ability to take a look at what's the impact of these changes are going to have on the farm. And then if need be, go back to those years and have a look at those figures. So Scenario is going to help you have a look at if a purchase is a good decision or what your plans are for the future. And it's a great way to show the bank and take this in and present it to the bank around why you need that additional funding and what that's going to do for the farm as well. So that is a quick overview of Scenarios. And the last thing that I'm going to have a brief look at today is the reporting function. So I'm going to jump into reports. So Figured has a wide range of reports. We've got financial reports, production reports, tracker reports, end of financial year trading statements. They're all going to sit within here. So I'm going to focus on the cash flow today and the variance reports. We do have all of our saved reports. So if you run those reports, they are going to sit in here. So I'm going to be jumping into a cash flow report. So I'm looking at my cash flow report. We have the ability to click to select the period. We can be having custom date ranges. We can be looking at just actuals and forecasts, or bringing that snapshot information through my actuals to date. If we come across here and click my additional options, we can be running these reports at a monthly and annual view. If we're wanting to show those quantities, show totals, show operating surplus only, we can be running those comparison periods as well. So if I go across and I run this report, it's going to populate it down here, and we can see that I've got my actuals information pulling through to August, and then my forecast data is also pulling through from here. So this is going to give us an overview of what's happening on the farm from a cash flow point of view. So we're scrolling down here, we can be looking at those figures. The last report I'll have a look at is the variance report. So same goes, we have a lot of options with these reports. We can be running a variance report against the cash flow or in a profit and loss. We can be selecting a period, a custom period, actuals to date. And then we have lots of options in terms of what we want to be running. So the actual month versus our snapshot month, actual month against our forecast month, our actuals year to date from last year's actuals years to date. So lots of options for you to be pulling these reports on. Same goes for your additional options. Do we want to be looking at the stock quantities? Are we wanting to be looking at the variance percentage? So you can be running these reports straight from here. And I've populated this. My demo farm doesn't have a lot of data in there, but we can see obviously from the red figures pulling through here that we're not heading in the right direction. So these are the settings that I have selected. I've got my actuals for September against my forecast. I've got that variance. I've got that variance percentage. Same goes across here. I've got my year to date against my actuals and my forecast, my year to date from last year. So all of this information is pulling through here. You can be coming through and collapsing all, expanding all, having a look at the data, analyzing it, having those conversations with your farmers as you need as well. You can be saving this view. So if this is a report that you're going to be jumping in on a monthly basis, you could be saving this so you can just jump in and run this report. It's going to save the settings for you. And the last thing I'll touch on you is how do we share these reports out and what are our options? So we can come down into the share report button and we can click save report. So Figured's going to take a photo of this, a copy of this essentially. And where are we going? Let's show this in my cash flow. If I click save report, while it is loading, it's going to take a photo of it. So essentially what this allows us to do is that we can come in here now and we can be clicking on these figures and we can be adding any comments as needed. And what that gives us the ability to do is give it a title. It will then save back into that report section, but we can be sharing this out with people. So if we want to be sharing this out with the farmer, if we want to be sharing this out with the bank, it's just a matter of coming in, popping in your email address and sharing this one off. You can add any notes and Figured will send this directly straight through with a click of a button. And that's for all of our report options that we have here in Figured. So super simple and really quick to do. So that is just a very quick overview. I'm very conscious of our time today. So hopefully you found some value in that. As I said, any questions will come through on the chat. We're going to answer some questions now, and I'll hand back over to Scott.
Thanks, Tara. So I think we haven't had too many questions come through live, but we've got a couple of things here, and I might throw these to a couple I might throw to Andy first, and some I might throw to Andy and John if they're able to jump in. So one of the questions is, I think we've covered off the snapshot there, is that, Andy, how many snapshots can you really take of and use that there? That's sort of one thing that we get asked quite frequently.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So there's actually no limitation on the number of snapshots you take. And that first snapshot you do take, there's going to be an annual plan tag that sits against that snapshot. So the annual plan tag can be changed to a different snapshot you've taken, but it tends to apply to the plan that you have taken to the bank at the start of the season.
Okay, no, thanks for that. Yeah, obviously that means that obviously you can keep on, as you say, no limitation on those snapshots, so you can keep on updating it as things go through, but making sure it's all tagged there correctly. I might throw to John if you're available. What another question we get quite frequently on this is, what's the best Xero subscription for this version of Figured to be used with?
Yeah, sure. Happy to take that one, Scott. So because of the nature of the plan and the financial farmer subscription, it typically works best when we're working with relevant and up-to-date transactional data. So on the Xero side, we'd typically find that we'd be connecting into a Xero Cash Book plus GST or a Xero Business Edition subscription. Any Xero subscription that has got a bank feed coming into it. So we've got those bank transactions coming into Xero. They're being reconciled and coded off, and then those transactions are being refreshed and updated and available in the plan on the Figured side. So what that means is at any given point in time, as long as the reconciliation of those transactions on the Xero side is up to date, we're looking at an accurate and up-to-date view of the business in the Figured plan as well.
Okay. Great, thanks for that, John. Another one which I might just throw to either John or Andy: can we create livestock invoices in Figured and post these to Xero?
Yeah, I can take that one, Andy, if you like. Yes, absolutely you can. So that's as easy as going into the livestock tracker in the Figured subscription, opening up the livestock tracker. There's an option there to create an actual transaction for either a sale or a purchase. So for example, if you'd sold some mixed age ewes or some prime cattle, you've got a sales docket in front of you, you can take all the information from that sales docket, create a matching transaction for that in the figured side. That immediately gets all of that information into your livestock tracker, keeps your livestock reconciliation accurate and up to date. And there's a simple tick box available in the transaction field that you can tick, and that'll automatically post that transaction through to Xero. That means then on the Xero side, as you have funds coming into the bank account or going out of the bank account, and that transaction is available for reconciling in Xero, you'll have a matching transaction there to reconcile that against that will have been populated from figured.
Thanks for that, John. And a final one we've got here, and I might throw this one to you, Andy, just to balance it out and give you a chance to hear your dulcet tones again. Can I invite the farmer into the figured file so we can be working together on the plan?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's encouraged too. So yeah, getting your clients in, building out plans, reforecasting, and again, taking those snapshots when you've made some changes to the plan, and then being able to go in and report against those in the report section on the left-hand nav bar.
Okay, great. I think we've got one more question come in. I think that's been answered already there. In relation to does figured handle transfer of livestock from farm to farm within the one entity? Thanks for that question there. And John's come back with that. Yes, we can handle that in a multi-farm. So multi-farm there. So that's hopefully that answers your question there. All right. Noticing the time, we're a couple of minutes still to go, but we just obviously want to wrap up now. And thank everyone for coming in. Hopefully sort of what you've been able to see and take away from this session is sort of how you can easily get started with the figured planning service and how to get the best out of the planning service that we've enabled through figured, and what I'm showing you what makes figured the best zero integration planning product available for agri. So hopefully you've been able to see those things today. What can we do next? Well, you can visit our website and use the green chat bubble to talk with us there, or you can drop myself or Tara an email. And obviously register for the next webinar, which is next Tuesday, and that'll be on our Insights platform. So getting ahead of the curve with proactive advisory services and being able to leverage that figured data. And as I said, visit our website, check out all the stories and the resources we have available for you there, and watch any of the 2-minute overview videos we have. And yep, as we said, webinar 3, next Tuesday, 11 a.m. in the West, 1 p.m. in Queensland, and 2 p.m. daylight time. So make sure that's in your diary. And if you haven't got booked in for that, just let us know and we'll get your name down for that webinar there next Tuesday. So thank you all for coming again today. Please feel free to get in contact with us. Any questions, jump on the green chat bubble. Fire any questions in there. Our customer support team will be more than happy to help you out there. And yeah, we'll get the recording of this one out shortly as well. And we really thank you for your time and thank you for your interest in Figured, and look forward to chatting with you soon.